Oh yeah, collective. Today's a special video. I think I say that for every video now. But this is gonna be crazy. I know you've seen the title. If you're new, subscribe, like, share, comment, all that good stuff. Okay, this is for the collective. We need a foundation. We need to stop old arguments. So we're gonna record everything. We're gonna have it here, PDF style. Okay. This here, that's a copper mine. Okay. You see that? This is also a copper mine. Okay. But they happen to call it the Grand Canyon. Alright. There's content out on that. But basically, Earth is alive, okay? Earth is alive, it's a comet, alright? For people who don't know, in my other videos, I already explained it. We go off the ancient ideas, okay? What they call mythology, what we call science. And we already debunked the mainstream narratives, a lot of them, and we're going to continue doing so. So we're going to use science too to back our claims, which we've already done plenty of that. So there's even scientific articles with astrobiologists saying the Earth is alive. So that's just not me saying that, right? So rocks and, well, what we call rocks and stones are basically petrified beings, petrified organs, petrified skin, petrified beings, okay, plants, different things, right? And they were alive at one point, which they're still alive because they still have atoms and molecules and stuff, which scientists wouldn't consider that alive, which, you know, we really don't care about that because they're so materialistic. We don't really care. But there's actually rocks that grow, okay? They're called trevants, okay? So for those who don't know, there's rocks that grow, and to be growing, you have to be living, right? So, you know, there's that. Anyway, the Earth was terraformed. Okay, so Earth's a comet, right? For the other videos who don't know, for the people who don't know in the other videos, the Earth, okay, used to be called Tiamat, right? And then a planet hit it, and Earth's a piece of that planet, okay? And the beings that used to live there came back and cultivated it. All right, that's the story we're going with, right? So it was terraformed, okay, and that's actually why one of the names of Earth was Terra at one point. Terra, okay, it's for a reason, okay. So they cultivated it over time, all right. They cut down giant trees like in Gilgamesh, okay. They cut into the earth, they dug into the earth, they made the tunnels. You got the natives who say giants built their structures just like the Egyptians and other cultures, okay. So this isn't just people making stuff up as much as the experts want you to believe that. There's actually many facts to how the earth has been cultivated, and we can actually see that through facts, okay. We can look at it and observe it and see clearly there's something going on. Okay, I know people see the concept of the giant trees. That isn't new. Okay, this isn't me just making things up, right? So, a good channel to get facts for these things, right? It's called Mythology University. Okay, check out his channel. Okay, he has a lot of good content on how what they're calling stones are actually living beings and organisms and space comets too and all types of crazy stuff. Okay, geology doesn't exist, only biology. Pretty self-explanatory. It's good to be able to identify minerals, but besides that, we're talking about life. Okay, so geology is really biology. Okay, for those who don't know, this is evidence whether people know it or not. Okay, Earth's first crust might have looked like ours today. Okay, so the petrified beings that we see today, the Earth's first crust might have looked like that. Okay, you see the scientific article, they go over, you know, their whole evolution BS and how they try and, you know, piece that stuff together. But even scientists have this idea that the crust that we see now is similar to the first one, which it this is petrified life. That was petrified life, which is evidence for us anyway. Okay. So we know about the flood, and for those who think scientists don't agree with it, they just call it the ice age. Okay, so we know there were catastrophes that happened. Okay, and you got the native five suns, you got the flood, you got all these different mythologies where like these catastrophes happening, right? And then you got like the naga serpents, and you got the ant people, you got other people who come up after that, right, and bring knowledge and other things to civilization, right? So this is a CIA document, okay, and the people who are involved with this particular CIA document, they have a lot of citations within that, which I suggest people look at. Okay, it's called the Adam and Eve story. All right, and they basically collect different mythologies, and they also collect a bunch of scientific data, and they actually map the last 5 catastrophes that happened scientifically, and they show the positions of the North Poles and South Poles, and it's a great document to read. Okay, but we'll go over it a little bit. So the Adam and Eve story. Okay, catastrophes happen quickly. Okay, evidence of Earth's surface moving creates cataclysms. Okay, so the Earth's surface moves, but the Earth's actually hollow. We're gonna get into that later. And the crust, there's gonna be 2 crusts, just like the people in the 1800s, their theories, and matches and aligns so perfectly. Okay, and it's just like the double sheaf plasma and the orgone fields, and it all matches perfectly. Okay, so theory of the Earth. So hold on, evidence of the Earth moving surface creates cataclysms, right? So theory of Earth book in 1812. They collect data from every branch of science, okay, including banometer, stratigraphy, archaeology, anthropology, paleontology, radiology, oceanography, seismology, so on and so forth, right? Not only did they verify that every part of the Earth's surface moves, but these movements cause cataclysms. They were able to get data from the last 5 cataclysms, okay? Just like the 5 suns, the last 5 cataclysms, okay? So, these are some good facts for people who are making models and stuff and want to map positions of where stars were and where these things were. This is important, okay? So, the North Pole, which we consider the North Pole to be 90 west latitude and 60 north. Okay, excuse me. Longitude 90 west and latitude 60 north. Okay? Wisconsin, 35 years ago, was the North Pole. Okay? And it ended 29,000 years ago. And then 29 years ago, the Caspian Sea was the North Pole. Okay? And that ended 18,000 and a half years ago. Okay? Then the Hudson Bay was the North Pole. Okay? And that ended 11,000 and a half years ago. Alright? Then the Sudan Basin, 11,000 and a half years ago, was the North Pole, and that ended 6,500 years ago, where it is now in the Arctic Ocean, and it is moving, and it is in Russia. Okay, so within this CIA document, they also explain how the Andes and Rocky Mountains were created within these cataclysms. And for people who don't know, science and geologists still don't have an answer today for how the Rocky Mountains were formed. Okay? And they were formed through these floods, which they're saying are BS, yet there's scientific evidence for these things. Funny enough. Okay? It's crazy to think that, people can just say things on the internet, and then people are going to perceive them like, oh, you're crazy, oh, you're this, oh, you're not an expert, all these things, right? Well, evidence speaks for itself. How about you just read and find out for yourself? Don't believe me. When did science become believing? I'm so flabbergasted at how people just think everything is belief nowadays. Anyways, we're gonna get into this portion of the video where we debunk plate tectonics. Okay, the idea of plate tectonics theory is been pretty much debunked by science itself. For people who don't know, I'm gonna present the evidence today. Don't believe me. Okay, so tectonic plates don't form continents. Okay, geoscientists at UBC, and what they say is geological forces occur within oceanic plateaus. Okay, so it isn't plate tectonics that form continents. Okay, moving on. Teaching Earth Dynamics. What's Wrong with Plate Tectonics Theory by Marvin Hender. Okay. I know this is going to seem like, oh, why don't you just break down these scientific papers and go through these scientific articles and stuff? I'm going to be presenting a lot of information today, so I can't just go through every piece of information, okay? What I'm going to do is overwhelm the competition, right? Which is the people who are basically saying our ancestors are lying, this is mythology, all this goofy stuff. I'm going to basically pummel them with information where they can't say anything because there's just so much. They're going to have to, if you debunk this, you got to debunk that, you got to debunk that, you got to debunk that. It's too many things for them. Okay, so moving on. Evidence that gas pressures cause earthquakes. There's plenty of scientific articles on this that it's gas pressures and it's not plate tectonics smashing into each other and all these fault lines and crazy things. Fault lines exist, but they're not these plate tectonics and these continents drifting and all these things. What we're going to find is everything's connected and it's still connected. And it's just the water level rise from inside the earth, okay? And that's easily provable, and I'm going to prove that later in this video. You're not even going to have to wait long for that. So, the reason, I'm sorry, the dog howls when fire trucks come, so if you hear the dog howling in the background, that's what she do. So gas pressures. For people who haven't seen my earlier videos on field interactions, okay, and the pressure gradients, and how gases and vibrations and frequencies within those gases create the plasmas and everything. Okay, so this gas pressures, even gas pressures within the body, okay, that is metaphysical science that's as above, so below. Okay, so these aren't debatable things, but the way science has materialized them, it seems kind of crazy because we go off this particle model and not the field interaction model, which is already presented in earlier videos. So for people who have seen that, this might make a little more sense why I presented that. Okay, so unexplained structures found underneath the ocean baffle scientists. This is more plate tectonics debunking. Okay, under Pacific Ocean, scientists discovered a lost world. Earthquake waves behave differently than previously thought. What scientists expected to find was submerged plate tectonics throughout Earth's mantle in what's known as subduction zones, which are basically places where the plates meet and one goes under and one goes over. Okay? New research finds plates where they aren't supposed to be, like in the Pacific Ocean, which according to plate tectonics theory should be impossible. Okay? So more evidence debunking plate tectonics theory for people who didn't know. Okay, it's actually really easily debunkable. Okay, so plate tectonics debunked. Continental drift. Okay, what is continental drift? I put here all land masses, but it's not all land masses. It's most. Okay, most land masses seem to point south. Okay, which not only goes against the plate tectonics theory, but scientists actually not only don't have an answer, they actually go with coincidence, which coincidence they like to use a lot because they just like writing off facts, okay, and keeping their models while throwing away facts. We're not throwing away facts here. We're going to keep the facts and adjust our models. That's the difference. That's why the collector is going to move forward. Okay, so land masses appear to drip south. Yeah. So, all the land masses are connected. Let me explain. Okay. Africa doesn't exist. Europe doesn't exist. Asia doesn't exist. That's all one landmass. Europe's connected to Asia. Look at a map. Asia's connected to Africa. Look at a map. One landmass. Asia's connected to North America when it freezes, or when the ocean tides go down because of the flood. North America is connected to South America, besides for human beings creating the Panama Canal. And we're going to show that Australia was not only connected to Africa, which it still is, it's connected to Antarctica, because everything's connected. So, but scientists, what they call the pre-flood connection is Pangaea or Gondwana, or there's even a landmass before Pangaea, okay? And they're basically saying all the landmasses were connected. But basically, they drew maps based on Mercator. There's different projections of maps, okay, of the Earth, okay? But we go with Mercator, and we go with the newer ones, because the older ones have the black mountain in the North Pole, and they don't like that, okay? So, basically, the way the maps are drawn are good for navigation. Great for navigation. But it's not good in representing the actual size of the land masses, okay? So Greenland is way smaller than South America. But on the map, it looks kind of the same size, okay? And so when they say, South America could fit into Africa, that's based on these Mercator projections. Okay, so none of that stuff is even real. All right, so they're saying, like South America was connected to like Africa, and then like this was connected to that, like a fucking puzzle piece. Like, no, that's not how it was. Everything's still connected. Okay, so don't let them like confuse you with the goofiness. Okay, that's not scientific. That's all belief. Okay, and none of that is true. Okay, and you can easily prove that wrong. So, so the flood. No one disagrees with the flood. Okay, we know the Ice Age. Okay, so Britain used to be connected to Europe. Okay, it was called, I believe it's Dogerland. It could be Dodgerland. Okay, but they were connected. Okay, and Australia was connected to Africa. It was called Zealandia. Okay, they're calling it the 8th continent. Zealandia. Like, continents don't even exist. There's one landmass. It's the Earth. Okay, and they're separating people, and people are believing this shit. Okay, and there's just different field pressures, which we went over in the first part of this video. Okay, there's invisible forces. Okay, invisible lines on the Earth that separate. Okay, and when a being is put into a different wall, right? Like, once you leave the wall and you enter a different one, okay, your body interacts with its environment. Okay, that's called microevolution. Okay, which they try and use as proof for macroevolution, but it's really variations within a species adapting to its environment. Okay, which is the same thing as saying, damn, those geographical lines, those biogeographical lines, right? The Wallace line. Why can't the animals cross this line? Okay, it would change. So, our vessels aren't that much different. Okay, they made different vessels though. So there are different vessels, and then they were put into different environments. Okay, and then we interacted over time. But there wasn't as much separation as they're saying. Like, they're trying to say, all people come from this one place. And that's not really how it went. Okay? So, Australia was not only connected to Africa, it's connected to Antarctica. Okay? And there's a chain of sub-Antarctic islands. Okay? Connecting Australia to Antarctica. Okay? So, this isn't our belief. Okay? New research shows Earth could have been an only water planet. I wonder why. A flood. So we're going to get into a good part of this video. Probably the part everyone's been waiting for. Okay? It's water. So y'all know. No more ice. That was the last ice. So, many cultures, okay? You could go with the Hopi, right? With the ant people. You could go with the Hindus, with the Naga serpents, right? Beings that came from inside the earth, that came from somewhere else. They landed North Pole, went inside, came out. Spread down, went inside, came out. Okay? So we're going to show that there's so much evidence for Hollow Earth that I don't even have to mention Admiral Byrd. Okay? Because that's a flex when we're talking about Hollow Earth. So, I want people to get like the scale of the size of the Earth. Okay? And how they like stuff people into small regions of the Earth. Okay? And how there's room. So, you can stuff every person in the world. If everyone stood shoulder to shoulder like that, every single person could, if you could fit them into Jacksonville, Florida. 2 Jacksonville, Floridas, that would fit the entire population of the Earth, all 9 billion. 2 Jacksonville, Floridas, if everyone stood shoulder to shoulder, side by side. That's how much land there is. So when they're bleeding resources and they try and say, "Oh, we're short," or all this stuff, no, they're not. And it's a natural resource, so it comes back. As much as they say it doesn't, yes, it does. So another fact is over 53% of Earth's population lives on only 14% of the landmass of Earth. Okay. It's called Valerie Pieris Circle. So think about China, India, Indonesia. There's a circle. Okay, and that's where 53% of the whole Earth's population lives, in that particular spot. Think about that, and think about other cities where they cram people. That's where most people are. There's a lot of land on the Earth. A lot of people spread out and stuff like that, you know. So much so that there might be more people than what we think, right? And even scientists are saying that, right? This is a scientific article. Everything that I'm posting that's a scientific article will be in the description. Okay, you don't have to believe me. You can read it for yourself. That's the whole point of this series. Okay, is that I'm tired of people trying to pull credentials. Like, who cares about credentials? We're talking about science. You can either prove your point or not. Prove your point using science. You got to prove it or not. So, scientists warn there can be over 1 billion more people on the planet and no one knows about them. So, scientists are basically saying there could be more people. Just like we're saying there could be more people. There's so much land on Earth and they cram people into such small spaces. There's so much land. We haven't explored everything. Okay? People from the north say they are from a land far north and took a tunnel. I think they appeared like somewhere in Norway. I'll have that article also. Okay? It was a group of people and they say they came from a tunnel and they came from a land far north. Okay, and that there's literally millions of them where they're from. Okay, and no one's ever seen these people. They don't know about their culture. They don't know who the heck they are, and they're saying there are millions of them. Okay, so when we're talking about we've explored everything, or we know everything, we know the whole Earth, or it's overpopulated, or all these crazy ideas, we could debunk them easily using science. And there's a lot of questions still. There's a lot of exploring still to be done, whether they want to admit it or not. And that probably hurts them because there's almost this perception, this like human ego that like we know it all already, or like if you question anything, you're an idiot because of like how far they are and like these scientific theories supposedly. But we're punching holes through all of that. Hollow Earth, evidence. famous mathematician, one of the most famous, Leonard Euler, okay? His mathematics is based on the hollow earth. Literally. And not just the hollow earth, magnetic anomalies within the hollow earth, okay? So that's very important because there's a lot of magnetic anomalies, right? All over the earth, from India to Antarctica, Florida, all over the place, especially with this pole shift happening, massive amounts. More evidence of the hollow earth and also evidence against plate tectonics, okay, is deep earthquakes. And earthquakes happening in the middle of plate tectonics is evidence of hollow earth. Okay, so deep earthquakes, which shouldn't happen because these plate tectonics should be smashing together, and earthquakes happening in the middle of plate tectonics when there should be plate tectonics smashing into each other, right, are all evidence of hollow earth and not plate tectonic theory. Okay, so for anyone who wants to see entrances to the hollow earth, all they have to do is go on Google and type in NASA, or don't even type in NASA, just type in ESSA-7 or type in ESSA-9 images, okay, which are satellite images from NASA where they took of the North Pole where you can see the hole. You can see the hole. You don't have to believe them. You can see the hole. Right there. And that hole could also possibly be them blocking out that mountain. Anyway. The North Atlantic Treaty. For people who don't know. I know they know about the Antarctica Treaty. Most people know about that. A lot of countries signed the Antarctica Treaty. There's also one for the North Pole. And it's called the North Atlantic Treaty. Okay? There's a reason they don't want people exploring up there. Just like they don't want people exploring down there. Oh, but you could take a trip to Antarctica. Oh, but people like McToons have been to Antarctica. Oh, but what about that kid that flew his plane over Antarctica and got arrested and probably still in custody? They haven't let him go. He flew his own plane. Why? What's the problem? Oh, because you have to buy a ticket and go where they say you can go? And that's proof. That's the proof, right? The proof isn't you should be able to explore. No, you can't explore. For scientific purposes. They're saying scientific people who are like, destroying the world. But they're the ones protecting it? From who? Themselves? Who else is destroying the world? The people in conjunction that are trying to make money off of it? Oh, man. So, we're going to get into, basically the way the scientists say the core of the Earth works is such cap, and we're going to get into that. But first, let's get into other things that are evidence of the hollow Earth, which are tunnels. Okay? And there have been some tunnels, reportedly, that you could go into portals. Okay? Like in Russia. Okay? The Volgograd region. Okay? Supposedly. And they have to do with deep underground military bases and other tunnels. And there's so many tunnels, I don't think people know. Like, just from Turkey. Okay, there's many catacombs, not just the ones in France. There's many catacombs all over the world. And those catacombs are decorated with your ancestors' damn skeletons. Okay? Remember that. Don't forget that pain. Alright? And don't let it consume you either. Okay, that's your power. But don't forget it. Alright? And Switzerland has over 360,000 hidden bunkers. Just Switzerland alone. Like, think about how many tunnels, who did that? And how did they do that? With damn copper chisels and hammers that they're talking about with their history that they give in their narratives. Like, and then think about Giza, what's under there. Like, those copper pillars. Like, their history is such cap. Like, we've already, they debunked themselves already with all the science that comes out. And the ones who defend that, alright. Evidence of a planetary collision along with the Earth and the core not being exactly what they're telling us. Okay, possibly evidence of the hollow Earth even is these blobs that are inside Earth. Okay, they're huge continent-sized blobs, which they're trying to say are molten, whatever. But there's a Pacific blob, there's an African blob, and then there's fast blobs. For people who don't know, you can look it up. All right. Another reason that the Earth is hollow, which this is evidence, because the scientists themselves, the ones who consider the moon hollow because it vibrated like a bell, well, the Earth vibrated for 9 days in 2023. 9 days straight. Nothing. Earth rings like a bell during earthquakes. Oh, like a bell. Hollow moon. Hollow Earth. Smashing them. Smashing them. Evidence and evidence and evidence. You don't have to make this up. All you gotta do is pay attention. Follow all the science channels. Follow them. Save all the evidence. They're gonna do it for you. I promise. I promise. This is years of just collecting data. Collecting data. Collecting data. Now, I could just... It's like... if I was to debate somebody, right, and they're religious, right, let's say they're Christian, I'll debunk them using the Bible. Like for scientists and science, I'm using science to debunk them on their own stuff and actually show that the ancestors was right. And it's actually really easy. I ain't have to do nothing and no one has to believe me. That's the greatest part of this. You could just look at the evidence, either deny it, you can interpret it a different way, but the evidence exists. And don't say it's me who made it up. Look at all these articles.